This is just a little sketchbook tour that I thought I would do. This is an old sketchbook that I did back in, I think it was 2016. I was in nursing school at the time, so it's going way back. So at the time we had this dog named Romeo, and I remember he went trampled through our garden and tore up some onions, and I sketched those and I did some notes next to it. Oh, this one was just some kind of contour drawing that I did in ink with some watercolor over it, and then I have these letter stamps which I did. Oh, just some quick sketching. I have a lot of kind of unfinished things in this sketchbook. I didn't end up doing a lot of drawing or artwork in general when I was in nursing school. So this was some kind of a dog. I think this was a commission I did for someone of their dog, and this was a little practice that I did. And this was, I was trying a gouache for the very first time, and I really did a horrible job. I still don't really care for it. So I tried to draw or paint a little chipmunk. Oh, this is just something I meant to do, like a spatter technique, and it just came out awful. This was at Tower Hill Botanic Garden. This was kind of the time I really started going there, and I just fell in love with that place. And I liked this kind of tree and the shape of the branches. And I remember having lunch there and sitting on their little patio. They have a little restaurant, and sketching that. Oh, this is this really nice magnolia tree that they have there. And this is pretty quick sketch, but I like how this one came out. This was something I did in watercolor and watercolor pencil. And another similar type of drawing. And this is this sketchbook is not made for watercolor, but I used tons of watercolor in it. This is something I did in these colored fine liner pens with some letter stamps and watercolor. I did this at Tower Hill Botanic Garden in the woods. They have these moss steps. It's a set of stone steps that are covered in moss, and I drew a little piece of it. I did the whole thing outside, from just sketching it out to the ink and the watercolor. I had a bottle of water, I think, with me, and I poured it into a little cup and used that, and I just took forever. I was there like for several hours doing this, but it was really peaceful out in the woods, and a couple people walked by, but not many. I did this in just pencil with some light watercolor over it. I did this in it was like a waterproof brush pen, and then went over with watercolor, and it looks like colored pencil too. I did this from a photograph of, this is I wrote hibiscus, but I think it was a Rose of Sharon or something. And that was fun. It was a really hot day. Just some colored pencil. I don't remember what this one was. This was something I drew from life. This is out in Grafton. It's this hill, and that's a road beyond, and it has telephone wires. And then I really had just gotten these letter stamps, and I think I was just going crazy with the letter stamps at the time. This is a nice maple tree. This I did in just like contour lines in ink with watercolor, and then I had cut out some pictures out of some magazines and I pasted them in like some kind of collage. I did this in November, but it was from a photograph that I took in the summer. Something that I didn't end up finishing. I don't remember what this was. This was at the library at my school, and I had some kind of exam or something, and I was trying to de-stress and do some sketching. But I didn't have a pencil or anything, I just drew it straight in ink. Another one of these kind of collage drawings. So these are some of the tropical kind of exotic plants at Tower Hill that I sketched, and then this is something from a magazine. At the time I had these really warm wool socks that somebody gave me, and they were really nice, so I did a little sketch of those. I think this was in January or December, something like that. It can't be in January because it says 2016, so it must have been at the end of the year. And this was based on a picture at Tower Hill that I just did directly in watercolor, some kind of experiment, not on watercolor paper. Actually, the paper held up pretty well. And this was something I did in some water-soluble fine line markers, and then I went over it with watercolor, so it dissolved the markers, plus they had some paint. And then I took my letter stamps to it as well. This was January, okay. This was something I tried to draw. Didn't care for how the lines didn't match up with the leaf. And then I tried it later on in the same sketchbook, and I liked how it came out better the second time. This was something, just some sketch of a frog that I did. And this was something that, it was an old picture that I had of a butterfly at my grandfather's house, and I drew that, and some kind of bug crawled inside of my sketchbook and got squished in there. I don't know if I can even get that off without damaging it even more. This was over at Magic Wings out in Western Mass. It's this butterfly conservatory, and I took some pictures of some butterflies as best I could. It's hard to photograph them, and then I drew this one. This is another one of the butterflies, except this one was in watercolor. This was something I tried to do. I tried to make a little gnome house from a photograph I had of a tree stump, and that was just kind of an experiment. I don't even know what this stuff is, just random quotes. This was a lamp that I did in pencil. And they look like crocuses. This was a tree in my neighborhood that I sketched all kinds of vines all over it. And I did that with watercolor in my front yard. This one here it's not hibiscus, it's something else. I did that at Tower Hill inside of the, or it's from a photograph I took inside the conservatories. And this is some camellias. I did this on site. Some pieces of branches that had fallen after a rainstorm, and they were laying in the road. And it had, or it's bark rather, it looks like a lot of lichen all over it. I did it in brown ink, and then went over it with watercolor, and I had a lot of fun doing this and getting all the interesting kind of textures. This is some weeds that were growing in between the cracks in the sidewalk. I looked it up, and it's this kind of succulent. I tried to draw it life size. They're absolutely tiny. I remember looking at it with a magnifying glass. And some tulips. I did this in the same water-soluble fine line markers, and then dissolved it and added some watercolor paint. My dog Katie. some crocuses. And then we have, this was pansy that she gave me for Mother's Day, my daughter. This looks like a rhododendron. These ones I drew outside, sketched them with a tiny little brush tip disposable marker that was waterproof. And this was also a tower hill with, it was a fountain, which I drew there. It looks like I finished my maternity class in nursing school and I was excited to be done with it. So I went to Tower Hill to celebrate. And this was right after I had sprained my ankle, and I had a really severe ankle sprain because I remember as I was drawing it, I was trying to elevate my foot and it really didn't work out too well. I'm not sure what this is. It looks like it could be sedum or something like that, which I was doing in the garden. This was something that I don't know what was under here, but I covered it up with a picture of a brick wall. And this is something else I drew outside in the garden. I wanted to fill both pages and do like a spread. I remember that. And this is something else that I did at Tower Hill. It looks like Camellia, I'm not sure. And something else I did with those markers. People were watching me draw, I remember that. This was colored pencil. I was too tired. I was sketching outside. I remember I was wearing my bathrobe. It was kind of getting chilly out, and drawing our rose bush. And this is when it looks like I finished another semester. My nursing program had 4 semesters and I was 75% done. This was something I did at the Worcester Art Museum, sitting in their courtyard area. That was nice. And then this one is some pears. We have a pear tree, and I think it was one of our pears. And then I found a picture somewhere of a pear, so I stuck it in there. This is just some random berries and little doodads out in the garden, but I was really disappointed that I smudged my own paint. I think this is some more roses. I went to a friend's engagement party, and they had a lot of arrangements made of just like cut flowers. So I was sketching those because I wasn't feeling very social at the time. And this is another one. I did the sketching, and then afterwards I did the watercolor. And then this is just some random things I found outside as well. This one is some kind of poisonous berry that I found out later on. These are some of our tomatoes, and then this is a picture that I pasted inside. And I was trying to draw outside with my hair down, not pulled up. That was probably annoying. And looks like a feather. This was a drawing that I was trying to do early on, and it with these big leaves, and I like how this one came out better. I did this, it was from a photograph. I used the same photograph both times, and it had a lot of dappled kind of light. It was kind of like the golden hour time, like when the sun was starting to set, and it was a really kind of atmospheric photo, and I was trying to do it in ink. It's hard, but I liked how this one came out better. And this is just some watercolor rose. I was into the roses at this point in my life. And this is when I was almost done with nursing school. I was just going through the really busy part of the last semester. I finished in December of that year. So this sketchbook kind of was most of my nursing school. It's all I did. I really didn't do much at all. I was focused mainly on school. So that's an interesting look back in time for me.